The happiest moment for you isn't when you get invited to a party, but the quiet second when you finally gather the courage to reply, "Sorry, I can't make it tonight." And the truth is, you're not actually busy. You're just trying to rescue your mind from a world that feels a little too loud, a little too demanding. It's not that you hate people, not really. What you hate is the version of yourself you're forced to become. So instead, you choose the only place where none of that is required. A place where you don't have to explain yourself, where you don't have to be on, where you can finally exist without pressure. And maybe that's why, while the world is out there chasing noise, some of the most creative, most thoughtful minds are quietly staying in. Because the truth is, the ideas that change your life rarely appear in crowded rooms. They show up in silence, often late at night, when you're alone with your thoughts and theirs. You probably know someone like this, someone who doesn't cancel loudly or make a scene about it, but instead slowly fades out of plans with soft excuses that are hard to question. They'll say they're tired, or that something came up, or that maybe next time would be better, and at first, it all feels completely reasonable. Life happens, people get busy. You start to notice a pattern, and with that pattern comes a quiet question you don't really want to ask out loud. Are they avoiding you? It's not an accusation, and it's not even a fully formed thought, just a subtle discomfort that lingers in the background, slowly changing the way you see their absence. But what if that interpretation is completely wrong? What if they're not pulling away from you at all, but instead trying to protect something far more fragile? Something you can't see, something that quietly drains every time they step into the outside world. Because for some people, going out isn't just a simple decision or a casual plan. It's a trade-off between connection and energy, between showing up and holding themselves together. And staying home isn't withdrawal, it's recovery. Ever known someone who always gets suddenly sick exactly 1 hour before kickoff? Don't blame them for lying to you. They're simply trying to save themselves. Welcome to the world of those who recharge in stillness, where society labels you boring, but science gives you a far more powerful name. What most people don't realize is that this isn't about laziness, and it isn't even about preference in the way they think it is. It's about how your mind and body respond to stimulation, because not everyone experiences the world at the same intensity. For some, noise feels exciting, conversations feel energizing, and being surrounded by people brings them to life. But for others, those same experiences quietly drain something inside them, not all at once, but slowly, almost invisibly, until even the smallest interaction starts to feel exhausting. Psychologists describe this as a difference in how we regulate our internal energy, where some people naturally need more stimulation to feel engaged, while others function best with far less. And when you fall into that second group, the outside world can begin to feel overwhelming in ways that are hard to explain to anyone who doesn't experience it the same way. That's why going home doesn't feel like missing out. It feels like returning to balance, like finally being able to breathe again after holding something in for far too. But it goes deeper than just energy. Because sometimes, it's not even about feeling tired. It's about that quiet tension that builds up when you're around people for too long. The kind you can't really explain, but you can feel it in your body. The way you start thinking about every word before you say it, wondering if it sounds normal enough, friendly enough, not too much, not too distant. The way your smile lingers a second longer than it should, just to make sure no one notices that you're already fading out of the moment. And the strange part is, nothing is actually wrong. No one is attacking you. No one is asking too much. But somehow, it still feels like you're carrying something invisible the entire time. That's what the outside world can feel like. A place where you're constantly adjusting, constantly translating yourself into a version that fits. And then you get home. You close the door, the noise disappears, and for the first time in hours, your body finally softens. You don't have to rehearse your thoughts anymore. You don't have to keep track of how you're being perceived. You can sit in silence without feeling like you owe it to anyone to fill it. And that moment, that quiet, almost unnoticeable shift, that's not just comfort. That's you finally being allowed to exist without pressure. And this is the part most people get completely wrong. From the outside, staying in looks like doing nothing. It looks like wasted time, like you're missing out on life while everyone else is out there living it. But what they don't see is what's actually happening in those quiet moments, when there's no noise left to distract you. Because when everything slows down, your mind doesn't. It starts to wander, to connect things that didn't make sense before, to replay conversations, to imagine possibilities, to question things most people never stop long enough to notice. And sometimes, it goes deeper than you expect, into thoughts you didn't even realize you were carrying. That's where insight comes from. Not in the middle of loud rooms filled with voices competing for attention, but in silence, when your mind finally has the space to unfold without interruption. It's in those late-night moments, when the world is asleep and you're left alone with your thoughts, that something shifts. Ideas form. Patterns reveal themselves. You begin to understand not just the world, but yourself, in a way that noise would never allow. So what looks like nothing from the outside is often where the most important things are quietly taking shape. It doesn't usually happen in obvious ways, but in those small, quiet moments that no one else seems to notice. You're sitting with a group of people, the conversation is good, everyone is laughing, and nothing is actually wrong. Yet somewhere in the middle of it, you start to feel this subtle shift inside you, like your energy is slowly fading. You're still there, still smiling, still responding at the right moments, but part of you has already stepped back, already thinking about how it would feel to be home, in silence, where you don't have to keep up anymore. Or sometimes it's even simpler than that. Your phone lights up with an invitation, and for a moment, you feel that familiar pressure to say yes, because that's what you're supposed to do. You even open the message, maybe start typing a reply, but then there's this quiet hesitation that stops you. It's not fear, and it's not dislike. It's just a feeling you can't quite explain, like your mind is gently pulling you in the opposite direction, asking you to slow down instead of step out. And the hardest part is knowing that if you ever tried to explain this feeling to someone else, it would probably sound like an excuse, like you're overthinking, like you're choosing to isolate yourself for no real reason, when in reality, you're just trying to protect a part of yourself that gets overwhelmed much more easily than people can see. But there's a line that's easy to miss. Because not every quiet night at home comes from a place of peace. Sometimes, staying in doesn't feel calm or comforting at all. It feels heavy, like you're not choosing to be there, but you also don't have the energy to be anywhere else. The silence isn't something you enjoy, it's something you sit with, waiting for it to pass, but it doesn't. You tell yourself you'll go out next time, that you'll reply to that message later, that you'll feel different tomorrow, but when the moment finally comes, it feels exactly the same, like something inside you just won't move no matter how much you try to push it forward. And that's when it starts to shift, almost without you noticing, because what once felt like a safe and comforting space slowly turns into a place you begin to hide in, not to recharge, but to avoid, not because you don't care about people, but because even the thought of showing up starts to feel heavier than you can carry. And that's not an easy question to answer, because on the surface, it can look exactly the same. You're still at home, still in your own space, still choosing silence over noise. But deep down, the feeling is completely different, and if you're honest with yourself, you can feel it. One feels light, the other feels heavy. When it comes from peace, staying home gives you something back. Your mind slows down, your body relaxes, and there's a quiet sense of relief, like you've returned to a place that understands you. But when it comes from avoidance, it does the opposite. The silence isn't calming anymore. It becomes something you sit in without knowing what to do with it. And instead of feeling restored, you feel stuck, like time is passing but nothing inside you is moving. And that's the difference most people never talk about. Because one version of staying home helps you reconnect with yourself. The other slowly disconnects you from everything else. And the only way to tell which one you're living in is to pay attention to how you feel when everything gets quiet. But if you're someone who truly feels at home in your own space, then you already understand this in a way that doesn't need explaining. You know that happiness doesn't always come from noise, and that peace isn't something that has to be shared or seen to be real. It can exist quietly, in moments so small that most people would overlook them without a second thought. It's there in the warmth of your morning coffee, in the familiar corner of a couch that somehow feels more comforting than anywhere else, in the soft light of the evening as it settles into your room without asking anything from you. And in those moments, nothing feels missing. You're not waiting for something better to happen. You're not comparing your life to someone else's. You're simply there, fully present, experiencing something calm and complete in a way that doesn't need to be louder to matter. So no, you're not missing out on life. You're just living it differently, at a pace that allows you to actually feel it, not just chase it. Psychologists call this a preference for low stimulation. It simply means you don't need constant noise or activity to feel alive, because your inner world already gives you enough to think about, enough to feel, enough to explore. While others look outward for energy, you naturally turn inward, and there is nothing wrong with that. If anything, it just means you experience things more deeply. So if you've ever felt out of place for wanting less, for needing space, for choosing quiet over chaos, then no, you're not strange and you're not broken. You're just wired to choose depth over noise, to seek what feels real instead of what simply looks exciting, and to value meaning over momentary attention in a world that rarely slows down long enough to notice the difference. So what about you? When you choose to stay in, does it feel like peace or something heavier? There's no judgment here, just honesty. Because sometimes the answer is the only thing that can tell you what you truly need next.